If Botswana says I must say something, so that's an instruction. First of all, let me say congratulations to our new executive here for the next 3 years, and all of us will be looking forward to your leadership to achieve all of these things that Satish has just been talking about. But also I must say thanks to everybody for spending this Saturday here in what clearly I think is an important interaction among ourselves as TMALI alumni. In 2001, we decided, that's at the ANC, we decided to publish a weekly journal because we were saying the media here was not properly reporting what the ANC was doing, what the government was doing, and so on. So it was need to fill in this gap to ensure that as many people in the public is concerned, as many people are concerned as possible, would hear from us what we are saying in terms of what is happening in the country, in the continent, internationally. So we beginning of the year 2001, we started publishing this magazine online, ANC Today. And we did go to do it online because we didn't have money to print a bulletin. So we thought the best way to do this thing, let's use the internet. And then it was decided that in order to market this magazine, the president of the ANC then, it was a weekly, would write a letter from the president every week. So we published every Friday. So the president of the ANC had to make sure that by that Friday, there was a new letter from the president. And we published, normally, it would be out, the magazine, by 12 midday. That arrangement about 12 midday actually came from the readers. Because if the magazine was not out on the internet by 12 midday, people would start phoning the ANC headquarters to say, where is the magazine? And part of the reason for that was that many people would then, once it's out on the internet, people are at work on Friday. They would then use the equipment at work to print it out so that they can then read over the weekend and so on. So that was why this 12 on Friday was important. So we had to keep to this because clearly was a very important part of making sure that what is published gets to the people. In 2017, the African Union asked me to chair a panel, observer panel of the AU in terms of the Kenya elections. So we had to spend quite a bit of time in Kenya. And from the point of view of the government, they attached to us one of their senior officials at the foreign ministry. So this official says to me, you know, President, I used to be the ambassador of Kenya in Kigali, in Rwanda. So, and he says, you know, the best day for us at the embassy was Friday. So I said to him, what did you do in Kigali on Fridays as an embassy of Kenya? He says, no, ANC today. We'd get it on the internet, and it kept us up to date with regard to what was happening in South Africa, Africa, and the world. And then your articles, and then we would discuss it at the embassy every Friday. So I said, very interesting. And he says, it was always the best day. And so he complained about what happened afterwards with regard to the magazine. And once I was in China, and we went to Beijing and then Shanghai, and then from Shanghai to Hong Kong to fly home. So the people in Shanghai, they say to us, one of your colleagues from South Africa was here, from the South African Communist Party. And we're explaining to him what we're trying to do in China in terms of building socialism. And they say that, but it was clear that he didn't understand what we're saying. And they said to us, you know, many people, we have this problem with many people from the Western countries, in that they see China through one eye and hear about China through one ear. And they said this was part of the problem with your comrade. As we try to understand, to explain to him what China is doing now and tomorrow, he couldn't understand. Same problem. Seeing China through one eye and listening through one ear. You know, Chinese are very good at these images. And so they then say, President, as the man left, we gave him your letter. So I say, now I'm lost. We're in Shanghai, talking to the Communist Party leadership there. We gave him your letter and said to him, please read this on your way back as we fly back to South Africa. Because we're trying to correct this mistake. So of course we have to ask them, but now when you say my letter, what is that? No, President, we mean ANC today. You remember the letter you wrote, which said, tell no lies, claim no easy victories. We gave him that so that he must understand. And that's China. What I'm trying to say, Satish, is we did this magazine trying to correct what we're trying to do, but in the end, that became obligatory reading every Friday for many people here at home and many people across the world. I'm saying that to say, I think TMALI Alumni should also publish a magazine. Because I think, as we're indicating, there are many alumni who come out of TMALI who've been inspired by TMALI. There's a lot of talent in this thing that we call the TMALI Alumni. And I think the point that we are making also, which I think is vital, that we must always bear in mind, which is this challenge of being change agents. across the board, and even in the context, as you were saying, of the African Renaissance. So why don't we do that? If we put out a magazine, let's do it on the internet. I hear we're broke, so we don't want let's do it on the internet and get as many of the alumni to contribute articles, and they will contribute articles on different subjects, but within the context of being change agents. And I think that would be very important, that an important role for the alumni of TMALI, that they continue to be change agents in that sense. And I think there are many, many challenges. For instance, if we take this country and say, what is it that needs to change here? And therefore, we as change agents, what do we suggest should happen to bring about that change? We were talking just now with Professor Paswana before we came here about what Dr. Ngqulunga said to you, I'm told, about the exhumation of Dr. Xuma. And I was saying to her, I agree entirely with what Dr. Ngqulunga was saying. I'm just mentioning that in passing, because what he was saying is probably correct. That what we want to say to change, one of the things we want to change here is the mentality which instructed somebody to exhume Xuma. It was a wrong decision. You see this phenomenon, I think, in part now. I'm sure all of us have been following the news about the coronavirus. And this strange reaction, at least as reported by the media, by people from Limpopo, saying, why do you want to bring these people here? They don't come from here, they come from elsewhere. I'm saying that kind of mentality, isn't that one of the things that needs to change? And as change agents, what do we say about that? So I'm saying with regard to South Africa, to the continent elsewhere, we raise this matter, what is it that needs to change? And what do we say about that as change agents? And I think a magazine put out by the TMALI Alumni would be a very good way, a channel, a means to convey our ideas about the things that need to change. And I, as a graduate of TMALI, are saying that it needs to change like this and that and the other. So I think that would be very important, and the sort of impact, therefore, that the TMALI alumni would make as change agents would be a continuing impact, both in terms of what people might want to do in their specific localities, as has been indicated, but also as a group that were able to communicate more widely, both to our own, to everywhere in the world. I think that would be important. I think the matter that Satish mentioned, that you discussed, the need to align and coordinate all these organizations, TMALI Alumni, and UNISA, Thabo Mbeki Foundation, and so on. I think that's an important matter. And I'm sure we see where are you? I'm looking for, there he is. That's who works at the Thabo Mbeki Foundation. And I think he'll be very helpful in terms of addressing that particular challenge of let's knit together this, all of this. One of the initiatives that is part of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation is SADET. I'm sure we all know what I'm talking about. I don't think we do. We do. SADET, we started SADET some years back, which publishes this series of books on the process towards the democratization of South Africa. I think so far they've issued 7 volumes, 8 volumes. And some of them it's volume 3, part 1, part 2, part 3, and so on. So it's quite a series of books which deal with the question of the struggle from the 1960s up to 94. Very detailed, all elements of that struggle. I'm mentioning that because, as you would know, there is a discussion that is going on about the teaching of history in our schools. I'm told that the teaching of history is compulsory in terms of up to grade 9. The discussion going on that but why don't we extend that up to grade 12? So there's a discussion going on, I don't know, but apparently there's some resistance. I don't know why anybody wants to resist that, but anyway, there's a discussion going on. But the question that arises is, what history then is being taught? Now, I know that decided people have then abbreviated volumes 1 to 5 of that series to try and produce books which are suitable for high school, pupils, students. I'm mentioning that because I think as TMALI graduates, some of us would be interested in that. That part of the process of the formation of the new citizen here in South Africa surely must be familiarity with our own history. But what history? Clearly, there's something that's wrong with our education if we still have instances such as was spoken about by Dr. Ngqulunga here, of a very wrong decision to rebury Dr. Thabo. That means there's something that's gone wrong in terms of our understanding. But I'm saying that once we do the coordination that we're talking about, it will then be possible for the TMALI alumni, those who might be interested, to say, but what if SADET is going to be putting out history books for the schools? I, as an historian or somebody interested in history, would want to make an input into that. We are, earlier this week, we met at the foundation headquarters to listen to a presentation by an architect about his design. Let me start somewhere. You know that the foundation has decided to open what it calls a presidential library. So already we are collecting material that will go into the library. In the first instance, our own material, that would be from people like myself, because there's a lot of archival material that's accumulated over many years about the struggle, about the birth of democracy here, the building of a democratic state, things like that. And fortunately, but this was by chance, we've already received from, never mind South Africans, the archives of Bongani Ngqulunga. They are already with us to go into that library. So it's going to be a very big library. And we've got an architect who then, to design the library. He came and he made a presentation. The library, again, is a joint venture between the foundation and UNISA. Very exciting presentation about that. Sure, I'm sure the foundation and UNISA will be saying something publicly about that. And I think, again, as TMALI alumni, that should excite us to say, here is this library that's going to be built. Probably the first of its kind on the continent. As alumni of TMALI, what is it that we would want to be in that library? And what would we want the library to do? Because it can't just be a place where you go to borrow books. It can't be that. It might be called a library, but it serves another purpose. As TMALI alumni, what do we do? To help to define that library and ensure that it functions in a particular way. I was just saying that that is in terms of what Satish was raising, a matter that we had discussed about the need to make sure that we as TMALI alumni, we coordinate with all of these other structures so that indeed together we are able to produce whatever it needs that can be produced. So in the end, what I'm trying to insist upon to say to everybody, thanks a lot for coming. And for the program that you have set, which is focused on this matter of changing the world. I had a brief discussion with the people here who are in charge of this major library here at UNISA, the biggest academic library on the continent. And I was saying to them, you know, once I was in Dar es Salaam at a graduation ceremony there. And one of the things I noticed was the number of people who, Tanzanians mainly, who got doctorates. And what was fascinating about that was the extraordinary volume of new knowledge that was emanating from this African university. Because if you looked at the titles of the doctorates, how to grow prawns in hot climates. What is all that? But nobody else had ever done that. So here is this, I'm saying, new knowledge emerging from this African university. Whereas many people would assume around the world that as Africans we are only absorbers and receivers of knowledge generated from elsewhere. It's not true. So I was saying to our library here that also since I've become chancellor here and sit and preside over these graduations, I keep an eye on who is graduating as our doctors, and look at the subjects that they do. Fascinating, including the ones about how to interpret Jesus. New knowledge, I mean, very interesting. So I was saying to them at the library that, you know, I think there needs to be that the UNISA library needs to open some portal just to have a report of these doctorates all the theses are piled up here at the library. Just to indicate what kind of new knowledge has been accumulated through this university. And perhaps enable us to access it. And they told me that, no, if Chancellor, you are late, it's done already. I said, no, well, how is it done? Now you need a password. So you can't access this material until you have this particular password. It's not quite what I was suggesting. But I'm saying again, I think we would find as TMALI alumni in this interaction among ourselves that even here from this university, there is a great store of new knowledge that has been generated here, which we, if we have access to that new knowledge as a TMALI alumni, it would help to empower us to add to the new knowledge that is required. So many possibilities. And so fortunately we have this executive of ours here, which I'm quite sure is going to do all of the things that were agreed. But certainly, personally, I'd look forward to, we must see the alumni. And the only way we're going to see the alumni and hear them and feel them is if they say something to us publicly, which they can. The last thing I'd say is, it's about we clearly we must go on a fundraising campaign to help the alumni to do the work that they need to do. And I think we can raise 10 rand, 20, this is possible. But thanks a lot and good luck.